I am pleased to introduce our guest speaker on this anniversary Sunday, Wendy Tarry. Wendy now makes her home in Connecticut with her husband and two daughters, but for many years she was a very active participant in the life of Rideau Park. Her participation during her time with us ranged from helping with the cherub choir to coordinating the drama and contemporary music teams, to assisting with youth Bible study and playing handbells. Wendy experienced and confirmed a call to ministry with us, going through the discernment process at Rideau Park, becoming a candidate for ordination from Rideau Park. Wendy holds degrees in English and Education from the University of Ottawa and a Master of Divinity degree from the Queen's School of Theology. Wendy is the author of With a Whisper, the poetry of Wendy Tarry, and was selected as a contributor to both the 2020 and 2021 editions of the Connecticut Literary Anthology. Wendy currently is a deacon, liturgy assistant, and frequent preacher at North Brantford Congregational Church, a congregation of the United Church of Christ near where she lives in Connecticut. And we're delighted that Wendy was able to share with us today.
Happy anniversary, Rideau Park United Church. I'm Wendy Tarry, and it's a great privilege to share with you in today's service. If you think of this as a kind of anniversary party, you can consider me the out-of-town relative who's zooming in with a church background. Oh, just imagine your cousin leaning in and saying, no, you remember Wendy. She's Rod and Linda's daughter, Andrea's sister, the one who went off to seminary at Queen's and married an American. Now, if you're traditional about anniversary gifts, then you'll know that there's a custom to connect anniversaries to a different kind of material or an item. For example, the first-year anniversary is paper. The 25th is china. The 50th is gold. And believe it or not, the 7th is copper. And the 28th is orchids. Who knew? So what is fitting to mark a 70th anniversary like Rideau Park United Churches? While the traditional material for a 70th anniversary is platinum, I think a precious metal isn't quite the way to go. Masks or hand sanitizers might seem appropriate this year. But for RPUC's 70th, may I humbly suggest we get a rock. Oh, not necessarily a physical rock, but some kind of marker in our memories, a memorial in our hearts to what this church has meant, and a reminder and a challenge of what it can be by God's grace. In today's reading from the Hebrew Scriptures, we hear about Jacob, who marks an awesome encounter with God with a rock, the same simple rock on which he laid his head the night before. The rock, like Jacob, is transformed. After Jacob's dream, a dream in which he sees angels ascending and descending, in which he sees the Lord and hears God's message for him, transformation comes. When he wakes, not just his physical eyes, but his spiritual eyes are opened. His reaction to the dream includes this profound statement: "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." Notice Jacob doesn't say the Lord was in this place. Oh no. The encounter isn't seen as just something in the past, relegated to the night of the dream. It leads Jacob to recognize that the Lord is currently there too. As individual followers of Jesus and as a community of faith, there are moments in our lives when we, like Jacob, should, I think, exclaim, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." I remember one summer at Rideau Park when we were invited to be part of what was called the Grace Project. Anyone who wanted could take a notebook from the church and write down moments of grace that we experienced. At the end of the summer, the various experiences that people chose to share were put together into a book. For me, one such grace moment came after a frightening, unsettling time in my life, and it provided a reassurance I needed right then. But I wonder, without Rideau Park's Grace Project, would I have considered that moment as something God was involved in? Rideau Park challenged me to see what was already there, God at work in my life. One of the profound impacts a church can have is to open people to the reality of God, to the invitation of God who offers love and a way into right relationship through Jesus Christ. I love the free streaming series, The Chosen. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to check it out. It tells a fictionalized but devout set of backstories to the followers of Jesus. It's basically almost like a streaming mini series of the life of Christ, but with information on his followers that's speculative or fictional, but very, very interesting, very engaging. And in it, Mary Magdalene, who is transformed by her encounter with Jesus, remarks to someone who notices the change in her. She says this, "I was one way, and now I am completely different. And the thing that happened in between was him." I attended Rideau Park United Church as a kid. I sang in the cherub choir, had the little collar, and I made the Advent wreath, I think it was square shaped, out of styrofoam and birthday candles. And then as a teen, I told my mom that I didn't want to be confirmed and wasn't sure I believed in organized religion. I'm not sure if I told her that part or just muttered it to someone else or thought it. But the funny thing is, I don't know that I really believed in any disorganized version. Actually, I don't think I did. I know I didn't. But funny enough, after all of that teenage drama, a year later, I was at Rideau Park United Church, happily being confirmed by Reverend Bob Lockhart and Reverend Lillian Roberts, seeing life differently, wanting to follow Jesus. What happened? Well, in a troubled moment, I had reached out to God for help. And in God's own way, God's own timing, God had reached back. I came to know in that in-between space that I could have a relationship with Jesus Christ, that his death on the cross and his resurrection meant something for me personally, a bridge, a paying of a price I couldn't pay, a gift freely offered that I only had to receive. And as one pastor I've heard points out, a gift's not a whole lot of good if you don't unwrap it. And I think I started to get to that unwrapping phase. I had been one way, and then I was completely different. And the thing that happened in between was him, was Jesus. And after that happened, I went back to Rideau Park, and I went back transformed, seeing things a little differently. And Rideau Park was there to welcome me and to help set me on a path of being part of God's transforming work in the world. One of the amazing things that they did was give a young lady, a teenager really, time to try things out, opportunities to do things that might have been reserved for adults in other places. And that was pretty amazing. One of the risks that churches face is somewhere between committees and traditions, between expectations and programs. We risk losing the space, the hunger for the wonder of divine encounter. Rideau Park, as a church, can I give you a challenge in this 70th year? Keep intentionally creating space for encountering God. And Rideau Parkers, as individuals, you do the same. Don't just rely on Reverend Steve or Reverend Elizabeth to fill your plates, or Reverend Georgina. Do some nourishing of your own. Hold that space in your own life too. There's different ways to do that. Maybe start each morning with a prayer. Anne Lamott has a book on prayer that includes in the title the words, wow, thanks, help. Because see, those are a pretty good summation, those three words of three of the most important prayers we do, right? Wow, thanks, help. Take time for daily Bible reading, for reflection. Go on a prayer walk. Could be in nature or it could be through your neighborhood, naming off the needs. Meditate on God's presence. Call someone lonely. Work for justice. Read something that will open your eyes to the needs of the vulnerable. Reach out to help another. Do it prayerfully. Remember the parable of the sheep and the goats? When the righteous who have shown care to those in need are praised by the king, they have no idea that they have helped him in helping others. Just like Jacob, who didn't know God was in the place, right? I'm reading from Matthew 25. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you? The king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. To paraphrase Jacob, surely Jesus is in this place and I was unaware. Might be something that those people could have said, that Jesus had been there and they didn't know. If I go through my memory stones of Rideau Park, I can certainly think of moments that God was at work that I probably didn't recognize at the time. Alice Campbell and her volunteers going into Hetherington and Ledbury to do programs for children. Folks packing shoeboxes for Harmony House and boxes for Christmas cheer. Times of gentle community, like when Steve Shipley would get a young candle lighter ready to go forward, or Carol Gardner led the toddlers in song, or Marcia Goss raised her hands and flashed that amazing smile to lead the handbell choirs. Or when I got to watch Reverend Ott McKennett, a minister who had been a chaplain in World War II, delight in serving on the ministry committee of a young female candidate of color, showing the beauty of God's diverse community. Surely the Lord is in this place and I did not know it. Anniversaries are a great time to look back on cherished memories. What are your memories of encountering God at Rideau Park? In someone's kindness? In a moment at Harmony Club or Chimes, on a Sunday morning service or a midweek service? Maybe at the pageant or an Incarna event, or maybe even, gasp, in a committee meeting. Where can you reflect and say, surely the Lord is in this place and I did not know it? And maybe even some blessed times when you did know it and got to have a wow or a thanks or a help prayer right in the moment. Rideau Park, as you mark 70 amazing years of sharing God's love as revealed in Jesus Christ, I challenge you to always keep God at the heart of all you do. Like labyrinth walkers, never lose sight of the true center you are yearning to reach. Don't give in to the temptation to be too busy or too institutional. Pray your way through problems. Worship with open hearts. Read scripture. Help people, all kinds of people, as you do so well. But do it calling on the Holy Spirit for guidance and strength. Believe in miracles. Cherish the past, but don't camp there. Look for what God is doing now and will do in the future. As Marilyn McLaurin would have reminded us, keep your fork. You see, you keep your fork because dessert is coming, and that's the best stuff. Sometimes it's in the future. And Marilyn shared with us once a story about that, reminding us of that importance. So keep your fork. Be open to the wonder of God-given dreams and all that result from them. Jacob's story reminds us that when we are transformed by our relationship with God, we are then empowered to positively transform the world around us. Remember Jacob's rock? It goes from pillow to pillar. And then Jacob says, if he blesses his journey, that pillar, and I quote, will be God's house. So from a sleep stone to a place of worship. Quite the change. Jacob even renames the land Bethel, meaning house of God. Jacob is changed. The rock is changed. The area is changed. Well, in some ways, we're the same. Our encounter with God should turn us into people who want to change the landscape, people whose eyes are open to God's presence and to the new possibilities that come with it. And I have to thank Rideau Park for helping me understand that social justice, that change for good part of our faith. And whether it's being kinder to a cranky coworker or welcoming a refugee family, mowing a senior's lawn or fundraising for a well in Uganda, grappling with our own biases or fighting for justice for our Indigenous neighbors, as transformed people, we can, with God's help, be agents of transformation in our community and beyond. It starts with that encounter with God. And I encourage you to have that. Jesus reaches out for each one of us. We'll need only reach back. Well, happy anniversary, Rideau Park United Church. Thank you for all that you've done for so many people and that you did for me and for my family. I encourage you, set up a rock and remember what God has done, but continue to celebrate what God is doing now and will do in the future. Surely God is in this place, and we have the gift of a moment to be aware of it and to celebrate. So thanks be to God and happy anniversary, RPUC.